Welcome in. Belly up, have a seat, and grab a drink as we talk some Wingman fantasy football. Welcome into another edition of Wingman Fantasy Football, the League Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Furley, and as always, I'd like to thank all of you, or any of you who may be watching or listening to today's show. This is episode 59, Week 7 Rewind. And as you may have noticed, we are changing the branding on these Tuesday night shows, as we are no longer calling them weekly recaps. We are calling them weekly rewinds. You may have also noticed that we are doing another attempt outside here at the Fierlehaus Biergarten Tent. I was a little frazzled on Saturday. Of course, I appreciate Mr. Bernie as the content was fine, but the sound quality was awful as I had the wrong mic plugged in or something. Did not do a proper sound check. So we're going to give it one more go before we break down the tent all the way and see if we can get a quality sounding show outside here at the Biergarten Tent. All right, guys, with that being said, before we get any further along, let's make sure that everybody is in the room.
Wingmen assemble!
All right, now that everyone is here, let's get into last week's games.
Let's go back! Week 7 Rewind.
All right, guys, I hope you like that new imaging. It took me forever. It's a little fun. I hope you guys will check it out on the video feed of this show. All right, guys, let's get into the docket of last week's games. Our first game was on paper a heavyweight match as we had the two top teams from the power rankings going up against each other, two teams at 4-2. Both teams had the highest projected scores going into week 7, and they were also projected to be within a quarter of a point of each other. However, that's not exactly how it played out, as Amazing Spidey was able to defeat Alex's They Took Our Jobs 122.06 to 95.26. This was Amazing Spidey's 5th win in a row, and he is rolling.
Keep rolling, 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 rolling. Keep rolling, 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 rolling.
All right, let's see how Amazing Spidey got to the 122 points as he had Patrick Mahomes finally break that 30-point threshold, getting 35.86 points. And despite his oblique injury and questionable tag all week, Christian McCaffrey did suit up on Monday night, and he scored 23.1 points. And Puka Nacua recovered from his first dud last week to get 19.6 points.
Hakuna Matata.
And the Cleveland defense also chipped in with 16 points. As for Amazing Spidey's duds, he had Raheem Mostert was only able to muster 5.6 points, and Josh Jacobs could only get 4.6 points. Although Amazing Spidey had a strong player on his bench, is he back, folks? I'm not sure, but Jonathan Taylor had 19.5 points. Watch out, guys. We have another strong running back on Amazing Spidey's team. I just jinxed myself. I should not have done that. Another strong player on his bench was the Miami defense, who chipped in with 11 points. Amazing Spidey made it through the week without any major injuries. All right, let's check in on Alex's They Took Our Jobs. At 95.26 points, he was the highest scoring loser.
You lose!
Let's check in on his top performers as he had Jalen Hurts just keeps chugging along at 27.26 points, and Kamara keeps chugging along at 23.3 points. Quietly, Jacoby Myers of the Raiders had 14.5 points, and he is on fire.
He's on fire!
And Isaiah Pacheco's got a slow-moving train, but he keeps it going and getting 14 points. As for They Took Our Jobs' duds, he had Cooper Kupp score only 5.9 points, and Bijan Robinson had a virtual goose at 0.3 points. If it wasn't for the last drive and some sort of weird reason to give Bijan Robinson one carry in the last drive of the game, he would have had a true goose, but he did get 3 yards, so he had a virtual goose. They Took Our Jobs had no one on his bench who could have helped, and he did have an injury as Jalen Hurts tweaked his knee.
Oh, no!
Although it is not deemed to be serious, and he is not expected to miss any time. All right, let's check in on our next game. We have our number 1 seed First place overall, Katie's King George up against Ken's Tampa Brady. And King George was able to defeat Tampa Brady 98.78 to 94.26. This was our closest game of the week at just under 5 points. And Katie King George, for the second time this season, has now won 3 in a row.
Keep rolling, 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 rolling. Keep rolling, 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 rolling.
Let's see how she got there. She had top performers and the highest score of the week, just barely. Lamar Jackson had 35.88 points. And Senor Muy Bien, Travis Etienne, scored 21.2 points, and he is on fire.
He's on fire!
Also, Josh Palmer, sneaky nice play, had 15.8 points. Even though she had a strong game and she did win, she did have a dud of Riley Patterson, the Detroit line kicker, gave her 0 points. That means she got the goose. She did have one very strong player on her bench as rookie wide receiver from the Indianapolis Colts, Mr. Josh Downs, had 21 points. King George made it through the week without any major injuries. As for Ken's Tampa Brady, he was stung by the bipocalypse as he had 5 players out of his lineup this week due to buys. All right, let's find out how he got to his score. His top performers was Jordan Addison at 27.8 points and Najee Harris at 14.3 points. Going into the Monday night game, Tampa Brady was down by 33 points with just Jordan Addison to go. And oh my gosh, did he give him hope as he had 26 points in the first half and just finished 5 points short of the monster comeback. Tampa Brady had no duds, but he did have one strong bench performer that I wish he had in his lineup at Kirk Cousins with 23.12 points. If he would have had Cousins in instead of Trevor Lawrence, it would have given him the 5 points needed to make the monster comeback. However, that choice is going to haunt Tampa Brady for a week or two. But let's check in on our next game. We have Corey's Mac Daddy 2s up against Nick's Waddle away, and Mac Daddy 2 was able to win, getting an 89.06 up against Nick's Waddle away's 77.54. And this snaps a 4-game losing streak for Mac Daddy 2s. All right, let's see how he got there. He only had one strong score as Saquon Barkley had 19.3 points. He had one dud of Tyler Lockett at 5.8 points, and he just refuses to play this guy, even though he always gets good scores on the bench. Jerome Ford had 16.4 points, although he did have a couple injuries as Saquon Barkley hyperextended his elbow, was able to finish the game. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to play this week or not. It's probably going to be a pain tolerance thing. They'll probably wrap his arm up pretty good, but I'm assuming he's going to keep playing. Jerome Ford, however, had a high ankle sprain.
Oh, no.
And he may miss a week or 2 or 3. We will see. They've already signed another running back onto the Browns, Jordan Wilkins, indicating that Jerome Ford may miss some time. All right, let's check in on Waddle away. He was the lowest score of the week. And despite having a 2-game winning streak just a couple of weeks ago, he has now lost 2 in a row. All right, let's find out who scored for Waddle away. As on National Tight Ends Day, he had Mark Andrews show up with 20.3 points, and Kareem Hunt filled in for Jerome Ford, having a nice day at 15.1 points. Now for the duds for Waddle away, as another Dolphin made the dud list. Tua Tagovailoa only had 12.64 points. Devontae Smith only had 6.9 points. Christian Watson had 4.9 points, and the Denver defense could only muster up 1 point. As for Devontae Smith, this is his 3rd game in a row on the dud list and 4 out of his last 5. As for some strong bench players for Waddle away, he had Cortland Sutton get 16.6 points.
He's heating up!
And Dallas Goedert got 16.2 points. Now, if he would have played either of these 2 bench performers over Christian Watson, he would have been able to come back and get this victory. As for injuries, he had who does he have here? Oh, he had Christian Watson leave the game on the very last play of the game with a knee injury, and we are not sure how serious it is at this point.
Oh, no.
All right, on to our next game, a battle of the basements, as we had Reggie's Lionites up against Bernie's Team B.
I'm Cuban B. Yes, Cuban B.
And Reggie was able to get his 2nd win in a row as he defeated Team B 87.3 to 78.8. And top performers for Lionites included a couple of Lions. Jameer Gibbs finally gets double digits, scoring 23.1 points. Hallelujah. And Christian Kirk is definitely the best Jacksonville Jaguar receiver in this duo, as Christian Kirk had 18 points, and he is now on fire.
He's on fire!
And the Sun God, Amon-Ra St. Brown, keeps chugging along, taking that train, getting 16.7 points. Now for the duds for Reggie's Lions, and he had 3 duds this week. Jared Goff had 11.2 points. Austin Eckler could only get 5.1, and the San Francisco defense had only 1 point this week. As for some strong players left on the bench, Michael Pittman had 15.3 points for a second consecutive strong game.
He's heating up!
As for the injuries, Austin Eckler did tweak an ankle, but it was the other ankle from where he returned from a high ankle sprain. So he had a high ankle sprain on his right ankle a couple weeks ago, or in week 1, and now he has another ankle sprain in his left ankle. So we'll see if he's able to return or play next week. We are not sure at this point. All right, as for Bernie's team B, he has now lost 3 in a row, and he is as cold as ice.
You're as cold as ice!
Let's check in on some of the top players, though, for Team B, as A.J. Brown is a monster, keeps chugging along, getting 24.7 points. Also, Rashee Rice, Kansas City rookie wide receiver, gets better and better each week and finally makes the top score list at 14.5 points. And Young Shui Koo got 13 points for Team B. All right, as for the duds for Team B, he had Calvin Ridley get only 1 point. All right, I got a question for you guys. When Calvin Ridley makes this dud list, should I use the nickname Calvin Risky or Calvin Dudley? You let me know in those comment section of the wingmanentertainment.net/WFF. Let me know what you like best. I might switch them back and forth. Right now, we're going to stick with Calvin Risky, scored 1.0 points. And Deshaun Watson keeps letting Team B down as he scored only 0.2 points for a virtual goose. This is at least the second time this year that if he would have played the right quarterback, he could have snagged a victory, as Brock Purdy didn't have a great game, but at 16.78 points was more than enough than the 9 points he needed to come back and beat Lionized. As for injuries, the aforementioned Deshaun Watson left the game in the first quarter with a shoulder injury. They're saying he may be able to play next week, but he's been up and down all season long. When they say he's ready to go, he doesn't make it. And when he say, he's just not a reliable player right now because he's been banged up. So this reminds me, I want to let both Lions, who had a dud quarterback, and Team B, who had a dud quarterback, Kyler Murray is on the trade block. You can get him early. You can wait till he's active. I'm in no hurry, but I want to let you know that if you want a starting quarterback who's going to score 20 points a week, he's available. I just need another receiver to help me out, bolster my my roster out. So keep that in mind, fellas. All right, let's check in on our last game of last week's games. We have Paul's Cubert Rage up against Jimerson's Red Sox Nation. And this, too, was a battle of two teams at 4-2. As Cubert's Rage defeated Jimerson's Red Sox Nation 125.2 to 83.3. Cubert's Rage had the highest score of the week. This was the biggest blowout of the week, as he won by just under 42 points. And Cubert's Rage had the most perfect of lineup choices, as all of his positional players, everyone other than his kicker or defense, made his top score list. He had Travis Kelce on National Tight Ends Day get 29.9 points, and he is now on fire.
He's on fire!
We have Josh Allen, who recovered from a mediocre game last week, to get 28.3 points. Mike Evans is back from his bye, getting 17.2 points. The train keeps chugging along as Stephon Diggs gets 14.8 points. And again on National Tight Ends Day, TJ Hawkinson contributed with 14.1 points, and Rashad White from Tampa Bay gets 12.9 points. All of his players made the top score list. With that being said, he had no duds, of course. No one on his bench who could have helped, and made it through the week without any injuries. Just a masterful day from Cubert's Rage. As for Jimerson's Red Sox Nation, he was also stung by the bipocalypse, as he had 4 players out this week due to bye. As for his top scores, he had Tyreek Hill get 20.3 points.
He's on fire!
And Terry McLaurin chipped in with 12 points. Now for his duds, his sneaky pickup of Elijah Mitchell for $18 last week did not come through, as he gave him 0.0 points for the true goose. Red Sox Nation did have a few players on his bench that did have some nice days, as James Cook had 17.7 points, George Pickens had 13.2 points.
He's heating up.
And the man off the street, Darrell Henderson, had 13.1 points. All right, guys, let's now check in on our Goose-O-Meter.
I'm just goosing along.
All right, we had 2 new gooses this week. We are up to 6. I wish my meter would rise like it's supposed to. That sounds like an innuendo for something else. But anyway, we now have up to 6 gooses as we added 2 this week as Katie's King George, Riley Patterson, Detroit Lions kicker, had a goose. And now Red Sox Nation has his second player of the season with a goose as Elijah Mitchell could only muster 0 points this week. All right, what's next here? All right, let's check in on our standings. So there was no movement this week in regards to placement, but so King George is still at the top of the heap at 6.1 with a record of 6-1. Pardon me. We have Cubert's Rage is still in 3rd place, but had the highest score this week, so he's up to 799 points and a 5-2 record. Red Sox Nation stays in 4th place at 4-3 with 728 points, and They Took Our Job stays in 5th place at 4-3 at 682 points. Amazing Spidey just keeps climbing up and starting to dominate the even division as he now has a 2-game lead in the standings and a 140-point lead in points. He is now 5-2, and he is the only team at this point to crack the 800-point threshold. And Tampa Brady is in 6th place at 3-4 with 676 points. And we now have a 4-way tie for 7th place as we have 4 teams at 2 and 5. And Reggie's Lionize got his second division win as he is now 2-0. So he's going to need all those division wins to have a chance to make the playoffs. All right, guys. With that being said, don't forget you can check us out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn Radio. Also, you can check all of our content on wingmanentertainment.net/WFF/game-day and /podcast. I'm really liking that game day. That's where I go to get all my information, especially on Saturday night and Sunday morning. It lets you know some Twitter feeds from, of course, like Ian Rappaport and Adam Schefter, along with some NFL ones, and they're really timely. I'm going to add a new section to that page. It's going to make it even more valuable tool on your Sunday mornings. I will tease that right now. I won't let you know what it is until I get it up and running. I'm very close. So with that being said, guys, thank you so much for watching. I'm glad we're able to have one more night at the Fierlehaus Oktoberfest beer tent before I've got to break it down. With that being said, guys, may your mugs be frosty. May your glasses be full. Your mugs be frosty. And we will see you next time.